Hari. So we have already, let me share that particular page so that it's easy for you to look at the slokas. We will not be looking at the commentaries too much. We would, however, pay attention to the main slokas in the text here. So I'm sharing, we were here, we were saying, we were discussing the Panchabhutas. Okay. So, Pratidhvanir, Vyasavdo Vayo Vishiti Savadanam, Anusna Sita Sansparsho Banho Bhugu Bhugudhvanihi, Ushna Sparsha Prabharupam, Jale Bulubuludhvanihi, Sita Sparsha Sukla Rupam Raso Madhuryamiritam, Bhumau Kadakada Savdaha, Kaঠিन्यम Sparsha Ichyate, नीलादिकं चित्ररूपं मधुरम्लादिको रसः सुरभि तरगन्धौ द्वौ गुणाः सम्यक् विवेचिताः. Okay, we are done till this and we'll go further. So let's look at it and make sense of it before we go forward. What is it trying to say? That this Panchabhutas, I would like to make that point again. I'd like to clarify this. Why are we studying? Why are we at all studying these Panchabhutas? What are the purpose? Because our purpose is to learn about Vedanta, about Atma. What are we dealing with here? We are dealing with Panchabhutas. You might ask, it's completely foolish. It's a wastage of my time. Because why should I be paying so much of attention to this Panchabhutas when I am interested in knowing about the Atman? There were two reasons as to why we started off this discussion. Number one, there would be some doubt. Okay, there is some doubt as to how this material universe that we are confronting with, that we are dealing with every moment, came into being. That is the critical thing. That is the most important challenge. The next one is, how do we transcend from our normal engagement with the immediately available material reality around us? It will continue to be there. How do we ascend, transcend these relative realities and our interaction with it, and elevate our consciousness to a level, elevate our understanding to a level where, despite the availability, the evidential acceptance that yes, all this is real, we also at the same time understand and accept that this is a relative thing, it's a phenomenal thing. The absolute, undivided, unified reality that is capital IS is in fact the Brahman. So we are not rejecting the details, but in fact we are accepting and making sense of the details in order to elevate our consciousness and transform our consciousness so that we are able to conform to ourselves internally. It's not an intellectual acceptance, but we conform to ourselves. First, we start with understanding, then we have conviction, and then we do an internal affirmation that that ultimate truth is the real truth. Therefore, then what is the benefit? So the ups and downs in life, the distractions, pains and pleasures, all that we pass through, we would accept them as experienced. At the same time, we shall not accept them as fundamentally a binding force on our consciousness. Our consciousness is far greater, is infinite. Once we elevate it to that Vedantic internal understanding, Sansara will be there. We would continue to do what we do, and yet we'll be able to establish ourselves at a much higher, vaster plane of inward understanding and realization. So there is no denial of reality around us. There is an understanding that there is more to what we see around us, and therefore we would be taking our relationship to the next level. With that, let's go to the slokas. Okay. So what does the sloka say? And we would make sense of it. And so what he's trying to say is like this. We have already done the little commentary that I had not been able to complete. We will quickly do it and move forward. Akase tava savada eva gunaha. So what is the guna? Any dravya is a gunashraya. Guna is a quality or an attribute. Somebody is there. Okay, the question is how tall is he? What is his weight? How does it look like? These are qualities attributed to that dravya, that entity. So what is the quality or the attribute in the sky? That the sound, it stays there. Tava savada eva gunaha sacha pratidhvani. Pratidhvani rupaha. If you shout in an empty sky, it returns to you. Okay? So what happens is that akase tava sabdeva gunaha sacha pratidhvani rupaha vayo sabda sparsho tatra vayo sabdam anukarena darshayati. So that particular thing, right? What is that VCT? That is the sound. If you listen to the wind, noise of the wind, VC, these are the kinds of noises. Vayu sabda sparsho tatra vayu sabda sabdam anukarana darshayati VCT. Iti sabda savdanam, that is the sound of air. Because we have already discussed this. Karana guna, the property of a causal entity shall remain in the effectual entity or is a consequential entity. The quality of the father sometimes goes down because of the, our DNA. Therefore, he's saying Vayu Sabda Sparsho Tatra Vayu Sabdam Sabdam Anukarana Darsheti Bishiti Sabdanamiti. Akasa has Sabda, Vayu has Sabda and Sparsha. It has come out of Akasa, therefore Shabda is there. Its peculiar own quality, that Sparsha is there. Evam Uttaratra Anukarana Sabdanam Drashtavyam. Next one. Tasya Sparshamaha Anushnasita Sangsparsha iti. Air is not hot, not cold. Whenever you have summer, because of the impact of the sun, it feels as if the air is very hot. That is a quality of the fire element in the sun. Similarly, during, say, rain or in the winter, you see it feels very cold. And that's the work of water, the water element in the Panchabhutas. Banno sabda sparsha rupani iti trayo gunaha. In fire, sabda from akasha, sparsha from vayu, and its own quality added, that is rupa. Rupani iti trayo gunaha. Techa kramina avidhiyante. That I would explain one by one. That is what he's trying to say. That one by one, he's explaining these qualities. Okay? And let's go further. He's Ushna Sparsha Prabharupam Jale Bulu Bulu Dhvanihi. So what is it in the Agni? So you have Sabda is also there. Sparsha from Vayu, it's hot. Ushna Sparsha Prabharupam, that is the Rupa, its own quality. Jale now is going to the next fourth Bhuta, Jala or Adhya Apaha. So there what he's saying, Jale Bulu Bulu Dhvanihi. First mentions about Sabda, which will come from Akasha to Vayu to Banhi and from there to water. From the sky, percolates down to air, from there percolates down to fire element, and from there comes to the water element. So first, Bulu Bulu Dhvanihi. So look at the noise of the sound of flow of water is trying to figuratively mention this as Bulu Bulu Dhvanihi. Shitaha Sparshaha. The water always feels cold, 4 degrees Celsius. So Shitaha Sparshaha. And how does it appear? Sukla Rupam. Okay, Shukla here is not white the way we mentioned that in English. Shukla is essentially, it's kind of is translucent, is not completely transparent, and translucent. Shukla Rupa, it doesn't have any color of its own. They are referring to as kind of Shukla. In Nyaya, they make it clearer, Bhashwara and Abhashwara, which is luminous, like the sun, is Bhashwara Shukla and Abhashwara Shukla. You just have that whiteness, but it's not what do you call, it's not dazzling. There's no glazes. Shukla rupam raso madhuryam iritam. What is the rasa, the taste of it? It is sweet taste. Doesn't mean like sugar. Essentially, there is no kadwa hata. It's not bitter. Okay, there is no astringent taste, or it's not acidic taste. So in that sense, it is madhura rasha. Ushna sparsha praharupam jale sabdadeyaha rasantat chatvara gunaha tan aha. Because water is the fourth element, it will have four qualities, one of its own, three coming from above. Jale bulu bulu dhvanihi, shita sparsha, shuklam rupam, raso madhuryam iti. They are the four qualities in water: sound, then touch, and appearance, and then taste. We'll go to the fifth one. Bhumau kadakada savadaha kathinyam sparsha ishyati neeladikam chitrarupam madhuramla diko rasaha. Bhumau kadakada savadaha. You see, there's a landslide, or when they are using dynamite, see, right, to burst these big pieces of rock. You see kadakada savadaha. Kathinyam sparsha ishyati. How does it feel? It has that hard touch, isn't it? But then if you have studied mineralogy, you have 1 to 10 categories of rocks, and the fields are different, isn't it? So if you look at talc, what is the hardness? 1. They will write, how does it feel? Soapy feel. And depending on the fracture, so you have different kinds of, you have even fracture. And those who have studied engineering, they would do a bit of material science. So you have sometimes uneven fracture, even fracture. If you look at slate, even fracture. Then you have conchoidal fracture, uneven fracture, all kinds of things are studied. Diamond, very difficult, right? It's 10, they mentioned. Corundum, 9. So depending on where you stand in the scale of hardness, the Kathinya would be accordingly sort of calculated or measured. Kathinyam sparsha isyate. Neeladikam chitrarupam. Neeladikam means it's not all the neela here is black or dark color. But if you look at the earth elements, there are different kinds of colors. So you have metamorphic rocks. Some of them are very attractive. Wherever you have a mixture of mica, it becomes very attractive, right? Like if you have seen muscovite or biotite, it is bluish, it dazzles, there's a bit of a golden hue, there's a bluish hue. So these rocks are very attractive. And there are different rock museums. I don't know if there is one in Orissa, but if you look at the quartzites, you have pink quartz, you have white quartz. Some of them are very, very attractive. So therefore, he's saying Neela Dikam means it's not always dark, but different categories of colors, different types of colors are attributed to the Prithvi Tattva. Chitra Rupam, sometimes it's a mixture of it. Chitra means a mixed color. And Madhuramla Diko Rashaha. How does it taste? It can taste sweet or acidic depending on what you are picking up. It's a Amala. It's also Prithvi Tattva. It has its own taste. You pick up potato, it has its own taste. You pick up a Rasgulla, that's also Prithvi Tattva. So they all have their own taste. And then Suravir Itaragandhav Dvau. Then he's saying Dvau iti Antena Uktam Artham Upasangharati. This is the verse number 6. Suravi Itaragandhav Dvau Gunaha Samyag Vivechitaha. So what are these two qualities that is they are mentioning? These two qualities, let's look at this last verse that we are doing. Yeah. Suravi itaragandhaudvo gunaha samyak vivechitaha. Suravi, that sweet smell. So you have agarvati. That is a very beautiful smell of it. What about, there is a stench sometimes, right? It gives a very bad smell. If you have a sewage pipe, there's a burst in it or there's a crack in it. It gives you a very good smell now. Hydrogen sulfide, how does it smell? Very bad smell. And if you are driving in a car and there is a sugar factory nearby, what kind of taste you get? Or if there's a paper factory nearby, paper mill, how does you, very bad smell comes, right? There's decomposition. gives you a very bad, foul smell. Therefore, he's saying Surabhi Itara Gandhau. Either it's nice smelling, it's fragrant, or it's a stench. Dvau gunaha samyak vivechitaha. Now, you might ask me, why shouldn't they categorize, like you have loban and lavender and ketaki or different kinds of flowers, and they all smell differently? You think, no, I'm making broadly two categories. What pleases you is Surabhi. What doesn't, what sort of creates a feeling of repulsion or revulsion in you, that you call it Asurabhi. These are basically two categories. Then different smells you attribute, but you can broadly put all of them into these two categories. Samyak Vivechita. Then in the next verse, of course, the serial number in the Panchadashi text is different. Okay. Sotram Chakshusi Jiuha Granam Chendriya Panchakam. Now he's talking about the Jnanendriyas. Okay. Because if you have these gunas in the Panchabhutas, how do you access that reality? How do you know there is Akasha? How do you know there is water? Because you know that it has a certain test. You have a sparsha. So you require sense organs to be able to apprehend, as they call it in philosophy, apprehension of reality around you. How do you access the reality? You need these jnanendriyas, sense organs. Now we are discussing about these sense organs. Sotram tvak chakshusi jiva granam chendriya panchakam. So first thing is the ability to hear. That is how you access the reality of sound with your ears. But you see, when we are using the word Indriya, we are referring to an entity called Indriya Devata in Indian philosophy. It's not about the ear here. It's called, it's a Karna Golaka. This is essentially a biological thing. They say, no, it is not about what tells you to hear. Because a person who looks to have a perfect pair of ears may not be able to hear. At the end of the day, if you go inside, we will study it in school as to how the ears function, isn't it? There's a diaphragm and it oscillates, and then the wave which comes, it interprets and sends the information to the brain, which interprets, and that's how we say this is this is that. It's a very complex machine which is there inside. But in Indian philosophy, they are saying that sound, that karna, there is a little space, and that energy or that agency, the Indriya Devata, which is Shravana Indriya, it is able to hear. End of the day, there is not call. The ability to hear is not about the ear. You can have the ear, may not be able to hear, and that's what happens when you are hard of hearing. You have a pair of ears, but you can't hear. Okay, and then what do they say? Similarly, you have eyes. You can have very attractive eyes. You may not be able to see. Now the doctors, those who are experts, the ophthalmologists, for example, will come and examine your eyes and say there is a problem with your retina, or there is these cataract or glaucoma or stuff like that, and they'll advise what kind of medication or surgical treatment you have to pass through to again recover your eyesight. But despite that, one fine morning they might say, no, you can't recover your eyesight. That's how some people cannot regain their eyesight. So in India, they would say that there is an Indriya Devata, which is not in your control. It's there. They help you see. The Indriya Devata withdraws his attention, withdraws his blessings to you, you are in trouble. Therefore, he's saying, Sotram Tvak. Tvak is the skin. To be able to feel anything, feel the touch thing, you need the skin thing. Tvak. And then Chakshushi. The Shah here is Dirghai because there are two of them. Two eyes. And then Juha, test. Chakshushi first. Shravanendriya. Granam, the ability to smell. It's not about the nose. Granendriya is not the nose. That is the physical seat or the physical framework within which that Indriya Devata, that Indriya, is functioning. There is one point made by the Nyaya philosophers. It may be relevant for you to look at it. All indriyas are atindriya. That means you cannot ascertain the presence of jnanendriya through your nose. Your ability to smell cannot be smelt. Think about it. You cannot see your own eyes. Think about it. We cannot smell, the nose cannot smell our ability to smell. The tongue, for example, cannot feel the tongue. Now we said, yeah, I do feel, I twist the tongue and I feel it. You can say it. But the ability to taste cannot be ascertained with your tongue. That is atindriya. Any indriya is atindriya. It is not indriya grahya. That is sakshi grahya. The presence is sort of a certain sakshi that we were discussing yesterday. We'll go there. Okay, jivha, ghranam, che indriya panchakam. These are the 5 jnanendriyas. Guna iti. Evam gunataha bhedam abhidhaya. So you have these 5 categories of qualities. Karyataha bheda jnapanaya. Tat karyani jnanendriyani tavataha. Look here. So you have agencies and you have these gunas, and then these because these indriyas that we have, these are consequences of what we have discussed that earlier in the first chapter. From apanchikrita means sukshma bhutas, from the akasa tattva, we have got the ability to hear. It's apanchikrita, it's very sukshma, it's very subtle. So the jnanendriya is also very subtle. Jnanendriya is not about the ears. The ear is part of the annamaya kosha, the physical seeds that we have. The nose is part of the physical seeds of the annamaya kosha. Ability to smell comes from the prithvi tattva. Ability to see comes from the agni tattva, not the fire element. I'm talking about sukshma bhuta. It's not about the fire you can see. It comes out of that fire tattva which is not visible. You cannot feel it. Similarly, the tvacha, tvag indriya. Tvag is not the physical thing. Skin is part of the annamaya kosha. But the sparshendriya is apanchikrita vayu karya. Right? It's a modification. It's a transformative modification of that vayu tattva. Right? So these are the karyas. He's explaining. Tesang sthanani vyaparangsha darshayati. Okay. Now tell me, where do these indriyas stay? What's your address? If a person meets you, how do you introduce yourself to him? You say, I'm X. I work where? I work with this company. These days, a lot of things are decentralized. You may be working online or in a distant mode. You may be working for a company in Switzerland, sitting in India. That is what we call offshoring of the jobs. So you are working from home, but you are helping customers sitting thousands and thousands kilometers away. Quite possible. And they also ask, where do you live? That's your address. Similarly, these indriyas are being discussed. So somebody might ask us, where is this particular indriya located? And that's what he's explaining. Now, karnadigolakastam tat savdadi grahakam kramat sokshmyat karyanumiyam tat prayodhavedavahirmukham. Vyapara is how it functions, the modality of operation. Vyapara. What kind of vyapara it does? Vyapara is at the intermediate stage through which a certain work is achieved, certain outcome is achieved. That is what we call bahir vyapara, andar vyapara, isn't it? Different kind of functionality of these indriyas we are discussing. So he's saying, karnadi golakastam, karnadi, that is the key thing that we have to take. Because he's not saying all indriyas are there at one place, like in the ear. He starts with karna. Why? Because that is sabda grahaka. That is shravanendriya. From there he's saying. Okay? So how does he explaining? You see, if you look at the Taittiriya Upanishad, Dityavalli, third mantra, Sotram Tvakshakyuhu, Juha Granam Cha. So all these are, whatever you're discussing in Panchadashi, are very much in line with different statements and different Upanishads. This is not an independent text. It is a translation of the ideas and insights which are available in the Upanishads or in the Vedantic texts. It's essentially a translation. Translation means a repetition of what has already been said in simpler language for our reception. That is as simple as that. Ete Jnanendriyani Indriya Panchakam. These are the 5 sense organs we have in order to apprehend the reality which is outside of us. What is that Sotirindriyam? Savada Grahakam Karna Golake Pratishtitam. I'm elaborating what is mentioned. Shravanindriya. Where is it? What is its function? Savada Grahakam. It apprehends sound. Did someone say something? When we lose our ability to hear properly, when a person is able to, I was talking to someone who has some hearing problem. He told me that the mind is supposed to interpret. There are so many sounds which are entering through into the ears, but we hear the satsang right now. When I'm talking to you, I hear there's a dog barking, but mind doesn't go there, right? And there are so many things in front of me. For example, there is this laptop. I'm sitting at the table. Some dog is barking, and once in a while the phone makes some kind of a noise because of an SMS or a call, right? And if you pay attention, there's a whole lot of sounds being created simultaneously. However, you are attending to one particular sound, and that makes sense to you. That is the contextuality in which you are apprehending sound. Now, when the mind and the ear coordination gets weakened, then you hear a lot of noise, but you don't know what I hear. There is some kind of a lack of coordination problem. And then they have this hearing and stuff like that to enhance the impact of what they hear so that they can interpret what that fellow is saying. And I was talking to someone else who has a similar problem, and he told me that when I focus on what I'm saying, then I can tell what you're saying. Otherwise, I hear some noise. There are 4 or 5 people talking. I hear a lot of noise, but I don't hear anything. You see, that is what, in order to all that, we use this word Indriya Devata, that faculty that you have. Savda Grahakam, where is it located? Karna Goloke Pratishtitam. What is the platform where it's established? Karna Golaka. Karna Golaka is this particular thing, the physical seat for the Shravana Indriya. What about Sparsha? Sparsha Grahakam Sarvanga Vyapi. Tvacha, the skin, your ability to feel. Where is it located? Is it here? Is it here? Where exactly? You can touch and feel something through your hand, through your cheek. The mother touches the baby with the cheek. Or a person is having fever, the mother will put her fingers on the forehead of the baby. Put the other side of the hand and touches and say, yeah, there is temperature, isn't it? Then we have more sophisticated machinery, instruments with which we try to feel. So he's saying, Togindriyam Sparsha Grahakam, this ability to feel, the touch thing. Where is it located? Sarvanga Vyapi. It's all over the body. The sensitivity of the skin points and the body can vary, isn't it? So a small alpine, whatever, if you press it against your heels, you might feel much pain. If I punch it on your tongue, of course, it's going to hurt you a lot, depending on where is it. The intensity varies, but then it's over the body. Chakshu Indriyam Rupa Graha. How do you see something is black or white, tall, short, big, whatever, beautiful, not so beautiful, or ugly? Because of your ability to see. And where is it? Netra Golake Pratishtitam Chakshusi. Dvivachana. You have these 2 eyes. Juhendriyam Rasagrahakam Juhagra Desastam. Why is he saying Juhagra Desastam? Because science tells you that the sides of your tongue inside, they are responsible for apprehending what is acidic, right? and whatever is sweet, you actually taste it at the point of your tongue, and whatever is very tikha, is very hot, then the inside of the tongue. That's what you've studied in school, isn't it? But he's saying juhagra pradesastham, juhagra desastham. Juhagra means on the top. Why? Because the rasa, if you touch something on the back of your tongue, whether it is rasgulla or anything, you can't feel it, right? And then during Corona, we had this problem. We lost our taste. Those of us who had Corona. Though Jivhendriyam, that is the ability, the taste, Indriya, the sense organ for taste, and then for smell. Granindriyam grahakam nasagre pratishtitam. Why is he saying nasagre pratishtitam? Why inside the nose you can't feel? No, there are certain points in the nose where exactly he's saying nasagre pratishtitam. Gandha grahakam, it apprehends smell. Etani karnandi golakasthani. Karnadi golakasthani means karna adi, all other four you add. Arthat stula sarindriya, stula sarira indriya goleshu. These are the physical points in your annamaya kosha. Sanstitani sukshmindriya saktayaha. These are your powers to apprehend reality through your sense organs. Sukshmyat karyanumeyam. Why can't you know that you have a Chakshurindriya? He said, no, it's Atindriya. Nyayakas will tell you. You cannot see your own eyes. What about me being able to see my eyes in a mirror? No, we are discussing about, can you directly see your eyes, or can you apprehend your ability to see with the help of your eyes? No, you can't. Then how do you know your eyes are functioning? Because I'm being able to see things. That is the outcome. Depending on the outcome, you can infer. Anumeyam, that is anumana pramana. One is pratyaksha, directly you see, and then you do anumana. Pratyakshataha, I see this is a phone. I'm being able to see. How do I know? Because I'm being able to see. That is the outcome. Therefore, I am able to infer that I must be able to see. Otherwise, how do I see? Anumeyam. Indriya sukshmataya drishtagocharam na bhavati. Okay, because all the indriyas are too subtle. Why are they subtle? Remember the thing. Remember what we discussed in the last chapter. Because all these indriyas are born out of apanchakrita sukshma bhutas, and they are super subtle. Indriya is also super subtle. Indriya is atindriya. Kintu tad vrityanusarat karyebhyah. Depending on the vikara, vritti, you have vritti, Shravana vritti, all these vrittis are there. Then you look at the outcome. Are you being able to hear? So how have you ever gone to a full body checkup? So they will bring that particular thing and they will try to hit it. And are you able to see the sound? You say yes. Okay, your ears are fine. You go to the ophthalmologist. He has this reading board from a distance. You look at that and say, okay, what is the last line? Your eyes are fine, 6 by 6. Otherwise, you got some problem. Kintu tad vrityanusarat karyebhyah shravanadehe. Shravana darsanadehe, shravana darsanadi. So you look at it. Okay? And arthat stula sarira indriya goleshu samstitani shukshmendriya. So if you look at that, karyebhyah evam aha srotasya sotram. Okay, atma into atma tesang prakashakaha. Who is able to hear your ability to hear? Who is the ear of your ears? The atma. How do you know you have the ability to see? Through Sakshi Chaitanya. So the atma tattva that we have, it's referred to as, that is the eye of the eyes, the ear of the ears, nose of the nose. So it's something which transcends, which higher, subtler. All the Gyanendriyas do functioning. It is the top Gyanendriya of all the Gyanendriyas in that is being explained. Because it's Prakashaka. This is what illuminates everything. Prayo bahirmukho dhavet. It always goes outside. paranchi khani vyatrunata swayambhuhu. You know, why we aren't being able to remain at a level of self-awareness? Because God has given us these doors to reality which are externally oriented. Whether it is the eyes can see. Can they see the self? No. The ears. But then we will do in the next verse, we'll say, yeah, sometimes you can also hear inside things. But the ears will listen to sound outside. The tongue will test whatever is to it from outside. So, Paranchi Khani, the doorway is always externally oriented. It's looking at the outside, not in. And that's one of the reasons why we do not have Atmajnana. It's not an easy job. Bhagavan api, then he's saying, you see, Bhagavan also says, if you look at the verse number 60 in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, what does he say? It's we got to be very careful, because end of the day, all these indriyas we have, bahirmukhata is their natural quality. Swabhava bahirmukhata visheshu pravriti. So the best example for this is when your mind loses a bit of orientation. The person becomes very restless. I remember once I was sitting in a hospital and they had a cardiology department in one center, but there was a geriatric cases were being studied in another section. So the patients were kind of in the same waiting room. And there were two daughters who had come with a very nice gentlemanly person. It was a couple of decades back. And I was trying to understand what was this, because he was physically fit and he was a nice guy. But they were treating him like he's a baby. So the moment his two daughters, wife is now helpless, daughters were managing the dad. The moment they lose attention, he may walk off because his mind is not stable. Okay, so he might walk off, and they were always anxious that he might fall because there was a bit of a problem with his motor activity. There was some, I don't know what he was having, but there was some kind of a situation. There was a kind of mental degeneration of his cognitive ability, whatever. There was some kind of a degeneration. Why am I mentioning this? Even in our normal situations, if you look at a child, how does the child behave? You give him a doll, he looks at something red or something attractive, he throws it off and goes there. So these are two extreme manifestations of the fact that our sense organs or the indriyas are able to take us to different directions where we are not in control. So Kathopanishad says, who is the guy who is able to do yoga? The Jivatma is like the person who is the Rathi, he's sitting in the chariot. And then Buddhi should be the Sarathi. And Mana is the harness through which he controls the horses. These are the Jnanendriyas and the Karmendriyas. And if they go in different directions, your chariot will not move in one direction. That is what we call it a chronic problem of attention deficit disorder, or ADHD in children, attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder. But our life is actually kind of a mild case of ADHD. If you look at the airports, you can understand what I'm saying. Everybody is on his phone, father, daughter, son, and son's wife, and his wife. All of them are stuck with something or the other. They may be watching reels or news or anything. And they're not talking to each other. They are one family going for a holiday, but all busy with different kinds of things, which wasn't the case when we were children, right? Because we didn't have this technological revolution. A lot of things have changed in the last couple of decades. So what am I saying is that we have old people where the mental stability or the integrity is kind of degenerating, and children where it hasn't come to that level of self-control. Children are also very restless. But if you look at ourselves, we are also restless that we do not admit and we do not recognize. Doesn't mean we are in full control. Let's understand that. It's very critical. The Shastra says that our indriyas are all the time moving externally, here and there, which means they would be trying to draw our mind, our attention in different directions. Therefore, Bhagavan kind of warns Arjuna, you got to be very careful. Yatoto happy kaunteya purushasya vipaschitaha. Don't worry about yourself, my boy. Do you know one thing? Even if the wise men can be distracted by these vishayas. So in Vedanta classes, the acharyas in Rishikesh all the time make a distinction, like in Kailas or Pujya Santi Dharmananji and Pujya Divyananji Maharaj in Kailas, from where both the places I learned my Vedanta. So they keep giving this example. What is the difference between Visha and Vishaya? Visha, poison, you touch, you take it and you taste it, potassium cyanide, whatever, you die. What is Visha? It kills you from a distance. It's a poison which can poison you from a distance. You don't need to touch it. The moment the mind goes there, you lose your concentration, you lose your integrity, you lose that peace of mind. Therefore, Bhagavan says, Yatato hyapi kaunteya. O son of Kunti, do you know? Those who are doing a lot of effort for spiritual ascension, even them, and who are wise, vipaschitaha, indriyani pramathini harantim prasavam mana. So these 5 indriyas and then antakarana mana, they pull his concentration. They disturb his buddhi. They pull him in all directions. That happens to the greatest of souls who have done a lot of sadhana here. What to talk about you? You are a beginner. It's like a professor who is making light of somebody's very serious commitment to research and all. He laughs. He says, oh, really? You want to do PhD on this topic? Do you know how much work is going to require of you? It's not very easy. I know 4 or 5 students who registered with this kind of a topic and they abandoned research midway. Are you ready? Students cannot survive experimental PhD, trajectory, because it's very difficult. It's very easy to have very ambitious and very idealistic proclamation about your own ability, your sincerity, your commitment in the beginning. But you know what it is after. Bhagavan is making us humble by saying, don't be too self-confident. You got to be very humble and do your sadhana, because even the most wise apparently are pulled down by their own senses and the external objects with which the senses connect. Okay, now let's move forward. What about it? Are they purely externally oriented? No, the text says not exactly. Kajachit pihite karne श्रूयते शब्द अंतरः प्राणवायौ जठराग्नौ जलपानिन्न भक्षणे व्याज्ये ह्यंतरः स्पर्शा मिलिने चांतरम तमः उद्गारे रसगंधौ चे Yakshanam antaragraha. So he's now saying sometimes the exact opposite works. How does it function? Kadachit vihite karne, if you hold your ears like this, and that's a practice in you. So what they say, you sit like this and close your ears, and then you do Om and listen to the sound within Omkara. In the Hangsha Gayatri or Ajapa Gayatri, so you coordinate your breath. So Hang Shaha, Om, Sa, and Hang. So if you look at the Yogi Guru book of Swami Nigamananda, he explains this Ajapa Gayatri, how to do it, or you can take the help of internet. And there are, of course, some variation in the advice of different Yogi Gurus. But Ajapa Gayatri is not chanting the mantras and all, sort of coordinating your breath in a way. So you don't need any mantra. It's all inhaling and the Anta Kumbhaka in a certain fashion It gives you far greater results than you get by doing Gayatri Mantra Japa. Kachit pihite. Pihite means, that means which closed from outside. Karne struyate sabda antara. You can hear within, isn't it? Sometimes you are very quietly sitting and meditating and there is some kind of a bowel movement. You feel it. Some noise comes out. You can listen to your own heartbeat, isn't it? That's possible. Pranavayu jataragnu jalapanin navakhyane. You can hear your own movement of air inside. And sometimes the agni, right? You have burning sensation because there's some kind of acidity or you're feeling very hungry. And that is called agni. That is agni tattva. That burning sensation. You feel it. Jalapani. If when you drink water and the water is moving inside, you're feeling that touch, isn't it? That cold thing is down. Annavakshani, similar that when you're eating and that moves down, and the taste of it, you can also feel it, and there's a burning sensation. Vyatyante hyantaraha sparshamilane chantarena tamaha, and the darkness. So you see the outside world, but you close your eyes. Okay? So netrayoho milane nimilane, you close your eyes, and what do you see? You see the darkness within. But you know, in yoga, they also give you different kind of advice in Kundalini and other kinds of things that you focus on the Ajna chakra and you deeply sit in a dark room and you'll see the luminous red spot here. The Kundalini yoga prakriya tells you, and then they will also elevate your consciousness that you can see different kinds of things and different kind of colors. But if you go to a Vedanta, you will say, don't get too much enamored with all these experiences. The truth is not captured in these experiences. The truth is beyond all these experiences. So the siddhis and all, also they don't give too much importance. Also the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, they don't give too much of importance to the siddhis. They are seen, in fact, as sort of hurdles in the process of self-realization. These are like chocolates which distract us from the real end of our research, of our exploration, of our sadhana. So that is how the verse number 5 mentions, and if we quickly look at the tikas, here the Indriya sadbhave kim pramanam iti akankhyayam karya lingaka anumanam ityaha sokshmyad iti. What are the proof that you have these sense organs? He's saying, yeah, karya lingaka anumanam. You look at the outcome and therefore then you infer there must be a cause, that is the indriya. Sokshmya, because these are too subtle. Tacha rupa upalabdhihi karanajanya kriyatva chidi kriyavat. This is the anumana vakya. What is it? Rupa upalabdhihi karanajanya. I'm being able to see that this is red. This is a rupa's upalabdhi, realization that it has color, it has some rupa. Karanajanya, it must be born out of, must be possible because of some karana. Karana is indriya, some means. How do I see if I don't have eyes? Why? Kriyatvat. Upalabdhi is one kriya, it's an outcome. So definitely it has to have some kind of organ which is responsible for it. Give me an example. Chidi kriyavat. So there is a person who cuts a piece of wood into 2 pieces. That's the kriya, isn't it? So you are hammering something to pieces with a hammer. So that is a kriya. Similarly, this upalabdhi is a subtle kriya. So it's a kriya. So there has to be a karana. There has to be some kind of an instrument, and that is my, darshanendriya. Ityadi drashtavyam. These are the examples which are given. And sokshmyat apachikrita panchabhuta karyatvane durlakhyatvad ityarthaha. Why we need to do anumana? Why can't we see it? He's saying because these are apanchikrita mahabhuta karya. It's a modification, manifestation of the apanchikrita mahabhuta. Akasa tattva has become shravanendriya. The Banni Agni tattva has become the darshanendriya. The Vayu tattva has become the sparshendriya. Very sukshma, very subtle, and therefore you have to do because they are not visible to the eyes, not visible to the sense organs. Etesam swabhavam aha. What is their nature? Praya iti paranchi khani vetat swayambhuhu. Kathopanishad chapter 4. The first mantra of it. Iti shrutehe ityarthaha. Then in the next verse that we did, kadachit vihite kanne shruyate sabda antaraha pranavayu jadharagnu jalapane navakshane vyajyante hyantaraha sparsha milane chantaram tamaha udgare rasagandhau. This I haven't done. Udgare, when you do ulti, you vomit, you puke. Rasagandhau, the taste and the smell, you feel both. Actually, it's inside, right? Even sometimes before it comes out, you feel the smell when you have acidity problem. Cha, iti akhyanam antaragraha. Akhyanam is all the indriyas. You have the ability to sometimes apprehend realities within you, not external to you. Kadachit karnasya pidhane krite sati pranavayu jaఠaragnu cha vidyamana antaraha sabdaha shruyate. Sometimes when you hold your ears like this, you can listen to the sound inside. You try to do it even now. You hold it like this. You'll find you can listen to the sound inside. Jalapane annabhakshane cha antaraspashaha avivyajante avivakta bhavanti. If you drink, okay, this sparsha, cold thing you feel. Annabhakshane, if it's pilau, you have a different kind of feeling. If it's very coarse rice, you feel it, which is going inside. You feel the coarseness. Antarasparshaha avivajyante. And then netra nimilane krite, when you close your eyes, antaram tamaha upalabhyate. Now, what is tamaha? There is a bit of a commentary in the Ramakrishna Tika. Rupa darsana abhavah tamaha iti prabhakaraha. Aloka abhavah tamaha iti tarkikaha. The Nayaka says there is nothing called andhakara. Tamas, darkness. It's not an independent reality. Vedantists accept darkness as an independent reality. The Tarkikas, the logicians of the Indian tradition, they say there is nothing called darkness. Darkness is absence of light. There is nothing called darkness. Then Rupa Darsana Bhavaha Tamaha. When you are not being able to see Rupa, that Abhava thing, that is called darkness. You are not being able to see, so you using the word dark. That is what is Prabhakara Mata. Prabhakara is a Mimamsaka, and he was a student of Kumarila Bhatta, but he is referred to as Guru because he was a super bright student. Prabhakara. Abhigata eva andhakarepi bhavarupa eva avaranatma chakshusha jnana virodhi aloko nasyascha iti siddhanta binduhu. This is Vedanta Mata of the Madhusudana Saraswati. Abhigata eva andhakarepi bhavarupa eva avaranatma. It's a bhavarupa, andhakara, darkness and ignorance. If something doesn't exist, something is not alive, can you kill it? Something is not there. So how do you do ajnana nasa? Therefore, he's saying it's bhavarupa. It exists. Ignorance exists. Then the Vedanta debate starts. You are saying two things. Only one thing exists, you say Brahman. Then you're saying ajnana exists. There is duality. No. We're talking about different levels of reality. All that, we are looking at the game of Maya. We discuss about father, mother, son, sansara, everything. They are relative realities. Vyavaharika. And then you have Pratibhasika, illusional reality during dream or during mithya jnana. So in that sense, ajnana exists. Eva avaranatma, what is swabhava? It covers up the reality. Chakshusha jnana virodhi aloka nasyasya. So chakshusha jnana virodhi, it is opposed to your ability to see something. How does that darkness go? Aloka nasyasya. It goes when there is light. You get into a room, you're looking for your watch, your wristwatch. It's lying on the table. You can't see. There's no electricity. There's no light in the room. Then you switch on use the torch light. Then you're able to see. Aloka nasyasya, what is eliminated with the help of light. That is Vedanti view. Okay. Udgare jate rasagandhau dvau gruhyate. When you vomit, then when you are vomiting, you both rasa and gandha, it's taste and it's smell, both you are able to. But somebody say when you vomit it out, then you are having it. But within sometimes you feel it. Because you have hichki, right? You have belching. So you can sometimes get it from in. Iti anena prakarena akhyanam antara graha. So all these indriyas you also sometimes apprehend internal reality. Akshanam iti kartari shashti, that is the grammar thing. Okay. Antarasya vishasya graho grahanam indriya kritakam antara vishaya grahanam bhavati iti arthaha. Sometimes you are able to access the internal aspects of the realities. And then you see, you are now talking about we'll go now to the karmendriyas. Gyanendriyas you have done, okay? Because you have 5 Gyanendriyas and 5 the karmendriyas, they're both out of the karmendriyas are born out of the rajasika aspect, rajasika anksha of these apanchakrita mahabhutas. And from the sattvic anshas, you have the Gyanendriyas. So in the verse number 10, if I looking at that, this one, the verse number 6 here, it's 10 in the Ramakrishna Tika. Panchoktyadan gamana visargananda kaha kriyaha krishivanijya sevadyaha pancha swantara bhavaddihi. The 5 karmendriyas you have Vak, Pani, Pada, Payu, Upastha. These are the. So let me add the next one. Vak, Pani, Pada, Payu, Ste, Rakhe, Tat Kriya Janihi, Mukhadi Golake, Swante, Tat Karmendriya Panchakam. Pancha Ukti. What are the 5 Gyanendriyas he's saying? Look at this. Pancha Ukti. Ukti is Vak, ability to see. Vakendriya. Ukti, ability to say that particular Vani. Then Adana, Bak Pani, Pani is hand, Adana Pradana you do, taking and giving. And then Bak Pani, then Pada, feet, legs. Bak Pani, Pada. Pada is what? Gamana, Agamana, running and walking and all that movement. Bak Pana Padi, Payu. Payu is what? You have these, you move. You flush out the whatever dirt within your body in the form of liquid or solid, right? So you urinate out the piss or you excrete out whatever, you flush it out through your anus. These are the payus. And then what? Anandakaha. Ananda is what? You have the reproductive organ, the same organ only for men or women, but the points are different. So why do you do it? Janana Sukadanya, because they are creating some kind of a pleasure, isn't it? Okay. So therefore, it's talking about the private parts of the body. The private parts associated, that is upastha. And the private parts are giving you some pleasure, biological, sexual pleasure. Therefore, by Ananda, here it is not about Atmananda, it's about sexual pleasure. Ananda kaha kriyaha. And then you might turn around and say, no, I'm not very convinced about your way of explanation. Krishi, Vanijya, Sevadhya, what about culture? What about trade? What about services? Are they not karmas? What kind of karmendriyas? Let's discuss that. You are only categorizing all karmas into 5. Now he's saying, Panchasu antar bhavantihi. You put them, Krishi. All, your Krishi can be summed up in these 5 kriyas. What are these? Ability to speak, move around, take and give. Within these 5, all will come. Okay, and then he's saying, and what are these? The Indriya Golakas of Karmendriya Golakas, Bak Pani Pada Payupastehi Akshehi Tat Kriyadanihi. These activities happen with the help of these are the 5 Karmendriyas. Bak, Pani, Pada, Payu, Upastha. These are the 5. Sukhadi Golakeshu Aste. So, Mukhadi Golakeshu Aste. Vak, ability, Vak Sakti, where? It is in your mouth, your ability to say. Mukhadi, from Adi, you will add all. Hands and legs and the private parts and then rectum and stuff like that. So, Sukha Keshu Aste Tat Karmendriya Panchakam. These are the 5 karmendriyas who stay there. The commentary of it will resume next week, again on Saturday. So we will do this Anti Mantra, and then anyone of you have any questions you can ask. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Tat Sat. So, do you have any questions, any of you? Yeah, Sanaji Puchi.
Swamiji, yesterday I missed the class. Can you just post the yesterday's link so that I can update myself tonight? Please do
Sure.
that.
I'll put it in the group, YouTube.
Please do.
Yeah.
Please do. Thank you.
So we'll again resume it, next week again. Have a good day. And if you have any questions, of course, you can. Steve, thank you.
Pranam.
Pranam.